Okay, I'm very happy to have on the Goldstein on Gelt Show David Carlson, who is the founder of the millennial personal finance and lifestyle blog called Young Adult Money, and he also wrote a book called Hustle Away Debt. David, tell me, why is it so hard for millennials to get rid of their debt?
Hey, Doug. Yeah, the biggest problem in the U.S. right now is student loan debt. We have about $1.4 trillion in student loan debt here in the United States, and that's an increase of about $1 trillion from just a decade ago. And there's really no signs of this debt slowing down. And the issue is we have people graduating college with this high amount of student loan debt, and they're making probably the least amount of money they're going to make in their career, or they're not even getting into a career job out of college. And with those student loan debts each month dragging down the amount of money they have to spend elsewhere, it's really causing an issue.
Let's try to understand if that debt's a problem. And a lot of times people go into debt, or companies or governments, as a way of investing in the future. Is college actually a good investment, or in fact not such a good investment in the future?
It can actually vary quite a bit. One example, I have a colleague at work. He went to community college for 2 years and then transferred into state school, as opposed to me. I went to 4 years at a private university, and the difference between what it cost him to get his degree versus what it cost me is quite a bit of difference. He actually graduated debt-free, and we basically ended up at the same company doing similar jobs. So it's not a bad investment per se, but there's some education that needs to happen as far as which course to take and how to actually graduate without this huge amount of student debt.
So it sounds like what you're telling me is you and your friend, you both ended up in the same place, but he didn't run up as much college debt or spend as much on school as you did?
Exactly, and I think we're seeing that a little bit more, but state schools here in the U.S. are actually increasing their tuition as well. People are having trouble keeping costs down for college. And my biggest thing that I like to focus on with my site and with my book is people who have already incurred this debt, because, like I said, 1.4 trillion outstanding. That's people who have already incurred this debt. It might be helpful to inform them of how they could have gone back and not spent as much, but they've already incurred this debt, so they got to deal with it, whether the next generation goes to college for cheaper or not.
Maybe they'll learn that with their own kids. They're not going to send them to expensive schools. You know, there's a lot of online education, which is fantastic. In fact, a lot of the big universities, the major players, have put all of their courses online for free. If you were talking to someone now, would you say, listen, if you're driven and actually able to, sit in a chair and do the studying, why not get the education for free that you would otherwise be paying $50,000 for a year?
Yeah, like I said, I think the community college option is a good option to go. Look for those more affordable options because, like you said, there is free courses and affordable courses available online that you can use to supplement your education. So I would definitely recommend that.
Okay, so now let's dive into into the hole in which many people have thrown themselves, which is they're deep in debt, and they come out of school and they have a job that's not paying them nearly enough to pay off the debt. What can they do to work on that? And by the way, I think this applies not only to people with school debt, but to any kind of debt.
I agree, and student loan debt isn't the only debt out there, as you alluded to earlier. The first thing, and this is specifically student loan debt related, but you can go into income-based repayment where your student loan payment is capped as a percentage of your income. And that can be a good option if you're starting out in a career that might not pay a whole lot. I know teaching here in the U.S., it starts pretty low, but over time you can kind of build up to higher income. And that's similar to other careers, but you can switch to that income-based repayment to give yourself a little bit of relief now. The issue with that is ultimately you are going to have to pay it all back, whether you make lower payments now or make more payments later. It's all going to come due. But there are a few other measures that you can take regardless of what type of debt you have. So the first is you can cut expenses, which is an easy first step. You can look at what you're spending and do a little bit of analysis on that and really adjust where you're spending your money, how much you're spending. The second thing is refinancing your loans. There's a lot of peer-to-peer options out there for people that are in credit card debt, an option to kind of consolidate that debt at a lower interest rate, and that can save you thousands, or even with student loans, some people save tens of thousands of dollars on interest by doing that. And finally, something I recommend and what my book is all about is increasing what you make at your 9-to-5 and outside of your 9-to-5. So if you can make more money at your full-time job, that's a great option because you're typically going to end up working the same hours but make more money. For some people, that's not an option, or they've already gone that route, but they want to have a higher income to pay off debt faster, get ahead financially. And that's when you can look into increasing your income outside of your 9-to-5 job through what I call side hustles.
We're talking with David Carlson, who appears to be the expert of side hustles. In fact, David, you do one yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and maybe something that people could take away for themselves?
Sure. So I started my post-grad life with my wife, about $100,000 in student loan debt. And that equates to about $1,000 a month minimum in payments. So for me, I was looking to get ahead financially, and with that $1,000 a month really kind of dragging us down, I wanted to offset that. So I actually did a couple things. 2 side hustles I did were blogging and freelance writing, and then the other one was doing some spreadsheet work for small businesses. So with blogging and freelance writing, that's how my site got started 4 years ago, youngadultmoney.com, and eventually led to my book, Hustle Away Debt. That has been a good consistent source of side income on top of my 9-to-5, and it's easy to do in my spare time, mornings, nights, really whenever I have a free moment. And then the other side hustle, as I said, was doing some spreadsheet work. And I think that's something that people can really apply to their own lives. I think a lot of millennials have skills that businesses want and need to fulfill different needs. So with small businesses, there might only be a team of 10 or 15 people. There may not be someone there who is specialized in finance or who has the skills to kind of create and manage spreadsheets. So I was able to use that to make a little bit of extra money as well.
So you found some of your own special skills and found a certain niche where you could inject yourself in order to make some extra money. Let me ask you a question. This problem of student debt, this is not a new thing. This has been going on for many, many, many years, since before you went to school also. What were you thinking when you knew you were developing $100,000 in debt? How did you ever imagine you were going to handle that?
I think there's 2 parts to that. First of all, that is a combined amount, so it's not just me who incurred that $100K. And
okay.
I think a lot of people who get married see that as well, where the debt actually kind of doubles. And all of a sudden you have this huge number that is kind of tough to take in because that is a lot of debt. But as I said earlier, a lot of people incurred this debt, and looking back at what you could have done differently isn't necessarily helpful. So as far as what I was thinking, I think I had the same mindset as any other high school junior or senior. You're not really thinking about the debt that you're incurring. You're thinking about what school am I going to go to that's going to put me in the best position to get a job? What's my college experience going to be like? Different things like that where...
You're telling us that people may realize that they have a problem, but they're not thinking about that so much in high school because they're just looking forward to getting as good an education as they can to get to the highest paying job. So, David, as we're wrapping up today, it seems to me that when we look back at the decisions that a lot of millennials are making, even beyond high school, but into college and after, they don't have really good financial habits. Where do you think, or how do you think they could begin to develop some good habits right away so that they can deal with this problem right away and not let it drag on?
Yeah, I think that there's a few things that you can do. First of all, starting to contribute to a retirement account right away. A lot of companies offer retirement match up to a certain percentage. So if you get into a job where there's an opportunity to start throwing money towards a retirement account, there's also tax benefits that come with that too. So definitely get started right away because you're not going to miss the money if you start that from day one. Second is save an emergency fund. There's a lot of people who want to throw every dollar at debt, but if you run into an emergency that costs like $2,000 or $3,000 and you don't have the money available, you're going to end up in more debt and potentially at a higher interest rate. So setting aside money, even a few $100s a month, can have a huge impact on your ability to handle some of those unexpected expenses. And I think this one's important, and you've kind of alluded to this as well. You need to learn about personal finance. So spending time, even 30 minutes a week, can have a huge impact on your understanding of personal finance. And there's always something more that you can learn, and that's going to help you get ahead.
That is very true. It is important, just like you're saying, David, to save hopefully in some sort of tax beneficial account, have an emergency fund, and to learn about the proper ways of handling money. We've been talking with David Carlson. He wrote the book that people need to read called Hustle Away Debt if they want to get out of debt, and he blogs and writes at Young Adult Money. David, in the last few seconds, just tell us the URLs and the way people can easily find you.
Sure. My website is youngadultmoney.com. It's focused, again, on personal finance and lifestyle for millennials. And I also have a new book called Hustle Away Debt, available on Amazon.com.
All right, sounds good. We will put a link to that at the show notes of today's show at goldsteinongelt.com. David, thanks so much, and good luck with the book.
Thanks, Doug.
You are listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.